Hello everybody, my name is Drenless, pronounced Drenless, and not pronounced. This is a video featuring my face taken using my selfie camera, using my Diva headset as a microphone. Now, I have a lot of favourite things in this world, and number one is probably being bent over by a Stolfo. However, number two is most definitely probably PlayStation games. Some PlayStation games are very good. My favourite... Never mind, we're not talking about PlayStation games, we're talking about Star Trek, one of my favourite franchises to ever exist, and one of the most long-running and successful franchises of all time, every installment being either a guaranteed banger, like Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager, J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movies, and others being not so great, like the original series, and others being just utterly dog shit, like Star Trek Enterprise. However, despite my personal opinions on every single one of these little installations, you'll find that every single one of these installations, to repeat my point from before, has a pretty dedicated... Should I sit up? Yeah, it looks better. Less headspace. Pretty dedicated fan base. You know, people that will live and die by it. I may not like Captain Jonathan Archer, but I can guarantee you that somebody on Reddit does. You may not like Captain Catherine Janeway of the Starship Voyager, but I can guarantee you that somebody on Reddit does. But one of the most successful is definitely Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, this was the sequel series to the original series, not counting the animated series, which was probably the actual sequel series. But anyway, The Next Generation came after, and it was set after the original series, and some original series characters even had cameos, like Spock's father, Sarek, and even Spock himself in a special two-parter that was made in memoriam of Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek. And it's really good. Like, that's not just my personal opinion. I'll probably throw up some user scores and stuff, because I just got Vegas. So, you know, we get an edited thing. If you see my eyes going from, facing straight to, facing on an angle a little bit, that's because I'm using my selfie. I said that already. Anyway. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. It's very good. And that is in part to its characters. Its cast was pretty star-studded, like nowadays it is. You had LeVar Burton as Geordie LaForge, you had Sir Patrick Stewart as Captain Jean-Luc Picard, one of the best starship captains ever. You had Jonathan Frakes as Commander William Riker, who was kind of your little Kirk. You know, he was really the Captain Kirk to Captain Picard. Captain Picard was a different guy. He truly believed in the ideals that Federation stood for, you know? But one of the most successful and one of the most iconic was Lieutenant Commander Data, an android created by Dr. Sung. He's a robot, and his never-ending quest for humanity and his undying desire to be more like his peers, always striving for greatness, yet understanding that he's the last of his kind. So sometimes when he was offered humanity by godlike beings, or even just offered a step further, he straight out refused because he realized that it was going to have to be something that he had to work for and earn. And also, he couldn't just throw away the fact that he was the last of his kind. But not everybody liked him, and what this video is actually about is a SCREENRANT article, SCREENRANT, called The 15 Shadiest Things That Data Has Ever Done. Everyone's favourite android isn't always perfect. From bad decisions to character flubs, Data has made his share of mistakes over the years. Now, what is the definition of shady? I know, this is a quiz for you. Is it A, of doubtful honesty or legality? Or B, something that you just don't agree with? Or C, something that, in your opinion, does not make sense? I'll give you a couple of seconds. That's right, it's A, of doubtful honesty or legality. But you see, SCREENRANT doesn't know that. Between his programming and careful planning, Lieutenant Commander Data of the Starship Enterprise should be flawless by design. I will be calling him Data, because that is his name. A funny little joke in Star Trek is that one of the people actually calls him Lieutenant Commander Data, like an idiot, and he calls them out on their idiocy. For the most part, Star Trek The Next Generation character is on point, remaining one of the most beloved characters in the show to this day. His quest to become human, blah blah blah, like I said, gave fans a new twist on a Spock-like character to enjoy, while simultaneously resulting in simply good storytelling. Now that doesn't make sense, because nearly every single point that they call out on this list are Data-centric episodes. You know, if you think it's good storytelling, why are you criticizing it? And yes, Data was originally intended to be this Spock character, giving an outsider's view to, you know, the thing. Spock was a Vulcan, which was different in those times, and Data's a robot, which was different in those times. That's not to say that Data is entirely perfect. The android had his share of trials and tragedies, from sinking to the bottom of the ocean while attempting to swim, to sacrificing himself to save the rest of his crew. That's not to say that Data is entirely perfect, so they're probably gonna call out some things that he's done that are a bit not great. He tried to swim, and he sacrificed himself to save the rest of his crew. Just doesn't make sense having this character's flawed, here are some good things that he's done. As with any character, he hasn't always made sound decisions, and those cost him in terms of his own development. Yes, dying to save everybody will act as a detriment to your development. That is true, SCREENRANT. Good job. From the goofy gaffies that induced fans' eye rolls to the harmful effects of trusting lore, here are the 15 worst things Data has ever done. Now, see, they've changed it from 15 shadiest things Data has ever done, which is actually wrong, to 15 worst things that Data has ever done. Okay. Number 15. Ode to Spot. Sure, some might say it was the cleverest thing that Data ever did, which it was, but others could say that the ironic naming of the non-spotted, non-canine animal was a stupid decision. Okay, first of all, the name Spot is not exclusive to dogs, it's just more commonly been used for dogs. Also, you can call a cat whatever he wants, it doesn't have to be spotted. What the hell, man? Go away. What's worse, Data's ode to Spot is the cringeworthy piece of iambic heptameter in the episode Schisms. While the concept of sentience changed within the show, no it doesn't, they've defined that sentience is in the Star Trek universe, sentience is described by 3 points.
To enlighten us, what is required for sentience?
Intelligence, self-awareness, consciousness.
Most animal lovers will argue their sentience per their nerve endings and capacity for pain, and most of Data's poem not only denied Spot's sentience, but also rendered the cat nothing more than a hedonistic predator. Now, Ode to Spot is a poem written by Data, and it's shown at their poetry note. Now, I'll read you a little bit of the poem, or I'll put Data here reading the poem. We don't know yet. Here's how it goes. Felis catus is your taxonomic nomenclature, an endothermic quadruped, carnivorous by nature. Your visual, olfactory, and auditory senses contribute to your hunting skills and natural defenses. And then it goes on for like 5 more paragraphs. But they're saying that... So what they've said is that what Data's saying about his cat is challenging its sentience. While the poem was comprised of cool vocabulary choices unique to Data, you just heard me read a bit and I could barely pronounce any of it, so yeah. Only the last sentence really conveyed the feeling of poetry. An android's grasp of poetry is limited due to lack of emotion, but his superior verbal skills seem as if they should be capable of waxing poetic more poignantly. Okay, it didn't make me feel any emotions, therefore it's not poetry. People commonly relate themselves to the animals, you know. You give your pet some humanoid features and characteristics. You decide what they like and they don't like. You just, you treat it as a person. And Data here is likening himself to his animal. So he says, "Fuck Spot, you're a really good hunter, and that's great." And then this one says it's cringeworthy, and it denies Spot's sentience. No, it doesn't. Being good at killing things doesn't mean you're not sentient. Number 14, using contractions. Now this is the only point in the article that I kind of agree with. Basically, I'll summarize it. There's an episode where Data meets his brother Law. Law is a more humanoid version of Data. He can smile, he can laugh, he can laugh normally, I should say. He uses contractions. He has a funny little mouth twitch where he goes like... And he says that Data was shut down and Law was created to have emotions and stuff. Be a better Data. We actually find out that that's incorrect and that Law was just a bit fucked up, and the people who saw Law were like, "Ooh, fucking shut that down and make a shittier version of that, please." Law's also sociopathic. Now, in the episode, Law replaces Data. He's like, "Oh, hey guys, I'm Data. That unconscious guy on the floor, that's my brother Law." I tried to do a little face twitch thing there. But, and the way the crew is able to distinguish from Law is that Data can't use contractions, And in this article, at the end of the episode, Captain Picard inquires after Data's well-being, and the android responds, "I'm fine." This is Data, he's back. Whether the error is meant to be funny in an ironic sense or it simply slipped through, it's a fan favourite among Data's non-canonical behaviours. Now, you'll find that the titles of these things are a bit contradictory, but we'll get to that later. But, yeah, it's a joke. It's a joke. I've done a lot of Google searching, Reddit trolling, I've been like, why did Data use a contraction? And it's widely agreed that it doesn't mean anything. It's just a joke, It's just meant to be a funny little gag in the last 10 seconds of the episode. You're like, "Oh, look, he said I'm fine." That's crazy. It's a lot funnier if you actually watch it. Data isn't programmed to say contractions, so he can't say them, except when he can. We get that they talk about how Data always uses contractions, which is wrong. He uses them once, and it's meant to be a joke. His comedy. Now, one part of Data's character is that to be human, he wants to make good jokes. He does. He wants to make some funny jokes. He wants to make people laugh because he's noticed that, jokes are kind of a big staple of being a human. There are times when Data's humour is completely on point, whether it's intentional or not. Many of his mangled attempts at humanity results in moments of hilarity that are completely oblivious to the android. Remember his beard. In one episode, I'll probably just throw up the scene, but Data gets a beard to look like Riker, and he says, "When I stroke the beard thusly, do I not appear more intellectual?" Even his attempts at small talk have been comical, despite his efforts to speak like a human. Now, this is where the SCREENRANT writer is saying, some of the shit's actually funny. Don't get me wrong. One part of the show has Data practicing his small talk, and he actually finds another guy that's just an expert at small talk. So the crew of the Enterprise put Data and this small talk guy together and see how long they can talk about nothing for. Like 2 hours or something, and they just talk about the weather. Like, it's nothing conversation. The crew's like, "Fuck, man, that's hilarious." Data often attempts to be funny. This just doesn't always work out. Now, here's where the criticisms come in. Data summons John Piscopo, a comedian, teaching him how to be funny in the episode The Outrageous Okona during the second season of The Next Generation. It was one of those times where it felt like Star Trek writers read a crack fanfic and ran with it. I don't know what a crack fanfic is. Sounds drug related, but I don't think there's fanfictions about the crew of the Starship Enterprise doing crack. Never know. I'm shrugging. I should probably sit up, eh? Yeah, that looks better. And this actually doesn't make sense because in the episode, Data's like, Data makes this comedian go, right? And he's a real old-timey comedian. He's a real shit comedian. He's one of those, hey, you know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Oh my god, isn't that so hilarious? You know, one of those real sort of Italian sort of comedians that everybody sort of did back in the day. Like Seinfeld. But this guy's not funny like Seinfeld. He's shit. He's not funny. And saying that's the point of the episode. It's not funny. Data's been learning comedy from a shit comedian. So yeah, it's not meant to be funny. It's meant to be the crux of the episode. Like Data, you can't just summon up a popular comedian and expect to be instant hilarity. Number 12, mooning over Tasha's hologram. Now, there are about 4 or 5 points in this article that I really do not like, and this is one of them. Data's quest to become human seems a little inauthentic when he moons over the loss of an old flame like a sentimental old man who hit the bottle a little too hard. His tryst with Tasha Yar is cringeworthy at best. More about that later. In like the second episode of Star Trek, the whole crew just basically gets really drunk from the space virus, and it makes them drunk. And Tasha is like, hey Data, let's have sex. And Data's also drunk, and he's like, okay bro, that sounds so epic. And they do. Tasha dies like 2 seasons later. Now, this isn't just senseless for an android to do, but a little creepy. Tasha told Data to forget their night together after it happened, discouraging any other thoughts he might have about their potential relationship. When he recalls her, he says they were intimate, and he seems to pine for her over that single factor, not because she was, say, a great teammate or friend. There's a reason why androids aren't moping around singing Strawberry Wine. Now, okay. Yeah, Data moons over the hologram, and he is an android, so alright. Why are you doing that? But they seem to think that Data only had sex with Tasha Yar once. Their friendship is already established to be very long-running in that second episode. And 2 more seasons, and they're still really close. A long-running friendship is just natural to blossom into, like, more. And it's the general consensus on the internet that Data and Tasha Yar actually continued their relationship, which is why he has that hologram. And also, Tasha Yar's dead. So you say that a human wouldn't do this, you know, he wouldn't feel sad over this hologram, this picture of he recalls their relationship as intimate, but it's more than that. It's basically a photo of a dead friend, and he's like, man, I miss her. And that's actually one of the turning points of the episode, when they find that Data kept this Tasha Yar hologram during his trial to see whether he's sentient or not. It's been like, wow, actually, yeah, he does miss his dead friend and dead like girlfriend sort of thing. Maybe he is sentient. You never know. All Yellow Eyes is back. I'll just summarize this one. I didn't really look into this. Basically, Brent Spiner and the cast of Star Trek: The Next Generation did like this album, like as Data singing like a Frank Sinatra sort of thing. Because Data's a musician. He likes to do music. He plays the violin and stuff. And basically, yeah, he sung an album about Frank Sinatra. So I haven't actually listened to it. And maybe it's actually good. Maybe it is bad. I don't know, SCREENRANT. You tell me. You think it's bad. So I'll probably disagree with you, because I don't really agree with a lot of your points. Not sleeping with Desora. Another of the points that I hate. Probably one of 2 that I actually hate. Later we'll give Data some flack about sleeping with someone he shouldn't have, but he really should have slept with his actual girlfriend. Data and Ensign Desora have been working together for about a week or 2, and, you know, it's going great. She's got some bad connections. Her boyfriend's a pretty shit guy, and working with Data, and he's always there for her, and just being himself, and he's like, and she decides that, hey, I like you, Data. We should be in a relationship. The relationship lasts about 3 days. Jenna Desora was a minor but competent character, a security systems specialist who fell for Data when the 2 shared an interest in music. Also, the fact that her boyfriend sucked, which is a big part of the episode, you know, Data's really her rebound. Her boyfriend had connection issues, you know, like, he wasn't really there for her, and when she gets with Data, he's too there for her. He downloads a bunch of relationship subroutines, but it's just, like, abusive husband from the 40s. it's a different episode. Between the complications of android and human intricacies and Data's creation of a program to help him navigate through the tunnel of love, another mistake of his, if we're counting, and we definitely are, the relationship didn't last long. Even though Desora was technically the android's girlfriend, she never officially became his lover. Data later revealed that the last time he'd been active was with Tasha Yar, who died long before his relationship with Desora. Also, another key telling evidence, Data says the last person he had sex with was Tasha Yar. This is in about season 4. This is when he says this. He had sex with Tasha Yar, as we know, in season 1, episode 2. That relationship went on for a longer time. Fuck, I need to sit up, dude. No wonder it didn't last. You're saying the relationship didn't last because Data didn't sleep with Desora. Being in a relationship with somebody doesn't mean you automatically have to have sex with them. If you've had sex in the past with someone else, and then you get into a relationship, and you're like, hey man, let's just let the relationship progress naturally. Sex isn't a requirement. It's a thing that you can do with a colleague who you're a good friend with, and it's something that you, if you don't want to, don't have to do with your girlfriend. Thoughts of self-termination. In Season 7's Eye of the Beholder, Data confesses to Geordi that he once considered ending his own life when the pathways in his circuits became more complicated. This seems to mirror the kinds of feeling teenagers often have as they rapidly develop and have troubles with their own thoughts and challenges. Such thoughts are out of character for the android. Actually, no. He's saying that his brain got too confusing and he thought about just turning himself off. Alright. That's sad. It's not out of character for the android. Data is considered super advanced. So advanced that he can have sex and get into romantic relationships and be very good friends with people. Of course he's going to get confused about what he is and even just consider just cancelling it. You know, if you've got a really bad headache sometimes. No, puberty. This is what they're alluding to. They're alluding to puberty. When you don't understand what's happening to you, it's only natural to think that maybe it would just be better if it was all over. But the fact that they're completely ignoring the point that Data's using it as a point to say, hey, yeah, it fucking sucked, but I ignored those thoughts and I continued on. And I pushed through, and look at me now. I've had a girlfriend. Using the Enterprise computer. When you're an android, there are plenty of things you don't need. Sleep, food, and plenty of other human needs are just moot. That's why it makes zero sense for Data to ever need the Enterprise's computer. Why can't he use his own programming instead? Probably because... just think about it. Jimmy Neutron, for example. Take that episode where he works as like a cashier at a fast food restaurant. He calculates it in his head. But the guy's like, hey man, fuck you calculating in your head for? You have to put in the system. And you have to use things, you know? If you're serving aboard a starship, you should be expected to use the starship's facilities and not just your own brain. Data's made some bad choices in the past. He's naturally concluded things that just were wrong. So, yeah, man, use the computer, dude. Shut up, SCREENRANT. Creating his daughter. The third one that I'm like, why is this even a point? Everyone wants a family eventually. So it's not shocking that Data would want progeny of his own in order to become more human-like. The problem is that Lal was not truly a daughter and couldn't fully represent one for Data. You're ignoring the entire point of the episode. Basically, Data decides one day that lots of humans are having children, so he decided that in order to become more human, he should have a child of his own. He spends hours and days in secrecy, labouring away. At the beginning of the episode, Geordi LaForge and Lieutenant and Counselor Troy, I nearly said Lieutenant Commander Data, and Counselor Troy are like, bro, what's Data been doing for the last couple of days? We haven't seen him and he's been super hush-hush. Lal gets to choose her own gender, which is weird considering the choices she wasn't allowed to make. Data. Now, that's a very problematic statement. Lal was allowed to choose her own gender, but other choices she wasn't allowed to make, I'm guessing they're alluding to her species, because Data narrows it down to 3, and that's in order for her to integrate more fully into the thing. He doesn't want her to be an outsider like he once was. He gives her these 3 choices. He's like, do you want to be a Klingon male? Because there's like Klingons and shit here. Do you want to be a human female? Because, hey, there's a fuckload of humans here. Do you want to be this other alien that I can't remember right now? Because this is easy. It's easy to integrate into something if you feel like you belong already. And if you just look the same, whack, that's easy. He allowed her to choose her gender. So, why is that a point? Why does it matter that he allowed her to choose her own gender? Data and Troy were adamant that she'd be likable in terms of her appearance, putting much more emphasis on that than it should have received. No, there was a lot of emphasis upon it. When Lyle was first made, she was like a steel sort of gremlin thing. And Data was like, bro. Also, she's his daughter. You know? She's his daughter. He wants her to look like him. Because it's his daughter. It seemed a vapid level of shallowness for the show, especially when Lyle's death was much more emotionally moving. It seemed a vapid level of shallowness for the show. Lyle got to choose her own gender. Two statements that should not be in the same point together. Lyle got to choose her own gender. It seemed a vapid level of shallowness for the show. Meddling in O'Brien's relationship with Keiko. I think this is the last one that I super disagree with. Miles O'Brien and Keiko are not everyone's favourite couple by any means. It seems like they're implying they're just likeable. When pretty much everybody I know has said, yeah man, that's the fucking sick part of the show. Their relationship is cute, it's moving, and it brings some heart to episodes that are not fun. When Keiko turns into a child, Miles O'Brien is uncomfortable with being with her because she's a child. And then her own daughter starts crying, so she moves to comfort him. And the baby's like, no, I want mummy. And you just see her be absolutely crushed. Their relationship sometimes brought a bunch of emotion to episodes that were just shit. I said that before, I think. When Data got involved in their relationship in the episode Data's Day, things got messier. Just before their marriage, Keiko backed out of the wedding and sent Data to tell O'Brien. Joining the game of using Data as their own personal messaging service, O'Brien then asked the android to talk to his fiancée back into marrying him. Meddling in someone else's relationship is always a bad idea. He didn't meddle. Now, if we go to the Keiko O'Brien on Memory Alpha on fandom, which is good, it's one of the main things I use, Memory Alpha. It's like it's basically just a big record, like a wiki on all Star Trek. Now, if we go to Memory Alpha, Keiko was introduced to Miles O'Brien by their mutual friend Data. Now, Data did not meddle in their relationship, he introduced the two. He had dinner with them. When he was with Desora, they invited him to have a double date. Even when he wasn't with Desora, it wasn't originally going to be a double date, they were just inviting him to dinner. And Data even served as the father of the bride, walking her down the aisle. Now, it's very bizarre to say, he meddled in their relationship. It feels like a lot of people didn't actually... It feels like the writer of this article didn't actually watch the episode Data's Day. Using the emotion chip, Data's biggest flaw is his constant struggle to become more human. It's not the biggest flaw, it's the main driving force of his character. It's as if he can never embrace himself as he is. He constantly struggles to become more like his crewmates. No, he doesn't. As I said before, he accepts that he's the last of the androids. He just wants to, be a bit more like them. He doesn't constantly struggle. With every idiomatic expression, joke, and hobby he collects, it is more and more like a little boy trying to do what his father wants, rather than follow his own ambitions, which is, his own ambitions are to become human, or in this case, programmed him to do. Data's goals are programmed into him, which, unless you buy into the argument that humans are simulations to begin with, is completely against human nature. Free will may not be fully programmable, but it's necessary if complete humaneness is to be achieved. By never questioning what Nooney and Sung desired for him, something that most offspring do by teenhood, Data could never fill his greatest wish, which was never truly his anyway. How does that relate to using the emotion chip? Well, I'll just cut that part out. 3042. How does that relate to Data using his emotion chip? You say that number 5 is using the emotion chip, one of the worst things that Lieutenant Commander Data has ever done, and then you go on to talk about how he shouldn't want to be human. Regardless if you agree with that statement, it's completely unrelated to your original point. Know-it-all and a know-nothing. Somewhere along the line, Data shifted from the sweet naivety that served as Spock nostalgia towards being the butt of an annoying robot joke. It's almost painful to watch Data be made fun of over and over again in a way that didn't occur with Spock. He's not Spock! Sure, we chuckled sometimes when Nimoy didn't understand something human, but it felt more like laughing with the actor over the joke than laughing at the character. Then Data began exhibiting such overblown confidence that it angered his loyal fans. Whatever the reason, when Data issued a knowing quip with a smarmy expression, it did come off as annoying sometimes. Again, how does that relate? It doesn't relate to your original topic. Data began exhibiting such overblown confidence that it angered his loyal fans. Did he? He's a robot that has literally downloaded the entire Enterprise computer databanks into his head. It's not overconfidence, it's just knowing more than you. Being creepy with Tasha Yar. Alright. First seasons often take a lot of liberties in order to settle in, get the feel for the characters, and help establish just who they are. Yes, the first season of Star Trek The Next Generation is quite shit. I'm not gonna lie, it's real problematic, it's sexist, it's a bit iffy. At least they made the guys wear those cool dress uniforms as well. That's the only reason why we've all been able to move on from the 3rd episode of Season 1 of The Next Generation, The Naked Now. Most say it's a rip-off of the first Star Trek series, Amok Time. It was only enjoyed by those who wanted Tasha Yar and Data to get together. It's not a rip-off, it's a reference. It's clearly a sequel to this Star Trek episode, Amok Time. They encounter the exact same virus that's mutated a bit, and they use those records, and we get into a little bit of drunken hijinks with the show. With the crew, I mean. The crew, not the show. When your first hookup happens because your partner is completely intoxicated, it's not something to be celebrated, something that Tasha even reminds Data afterwards. Even after he carries a torch for the security guard, she has long since made the decision to forget about their manic, substance-induced encounter, which occurred after she flirted with just about everyone on board as a symptom of toxic illness. Okay, a few amendments. When your first hookup happens because your partner is completely intoxicated, should be. When your first hookup happens because you and your partner are completely intoxicated, Data's like super drunk as well. Something that Tasha reminds Data afterwards. She does say it didn't happen. Even after he carries a torch for the security guard, she has long since made the decision to forget about their manic substance-induced encounter. No, she gave him a hologram of herself, which she didn't give to anybody else. It's clear that there was some relationship there. And as I said, it's long been agreed that, yeah, their relationship continued afterwards. Suggesting that terrorism is positive. When Data insinuated that terrorism could help get the job done, it was close to the worst thing that he's ever done, period. Data stated that the Data stated, say that 5,000 times fast, that the Irish unification of 2024 came about, but not out of peace, love and hippies, but terrorism. Terrorism. I keep going to say terrorism. Terrorism. And served as one of the many times in history when terrorism actually served a greater purpose. Different federations have gone after terrorists, attempting to stop them from carrying out dastardly plans, so it's not a universal belief held by everyone at the final frontier. Data did not suggest that terrorism is positive. He suggested that it helped. You can agree with terrorists' motives. You can agree that, hey, these guys that want to shoot these guys that want to blow up 4 buildings to get, I don't know, more rights for their workers. You can agree that that's a noble goal, and I even agree with that. But you don't have to agree with the means. And Data wasn't saying that terrorism was good. He said that it worked, you know. He said that nobody was really listening until these people started just fucking exploding things. joining law and betraying everyone. This is the unanimously undisputed worst era of Data's life. The final thing I disagree with, because it's like they didn't even watch the episode. Take a shot for every time I've said that. As naive as Data may be, sometimes Law's evil seemed pretty obvious to the rest of us, and when Data decided to follow his big brother, Law's his big brother, we had to chalk it up to his new wrath due to his emotion chip and not Data's usual sound powers of analysis. And then like a bunch of spaces. To Law has newly fed Data's friends and colleagues to the crystalline entity. You might think that Data could easily write him off as a crazy, malevolent jerkface to never speak to again, let alone assist in a Borg takeover. Alright. I just put the phone down, put the article down, because now I'm gonna tell you what actually happened in that episode. The Enterprise encounters a bunch of Borg. They bring one of the Borg on board to the brig. Data interrogates the Borg because he's a robot and he's not easily affected like the rest of the crew emotionally, because the complete lack of emotions. The Borg activates something in his finger. He goes like, and then starts telling Data how great it would be to kill someone, and Data's like, fuck yeah, man, that'd be fucking sick, dude. Oh yeah. Data eventually leaves the Enterprise and goes to this planet where he discovers that the Borg have newly been organized under Law. Like Law's their king, and Data teams up with him. It's revealed that the reason of this is because Law has the emotion chip and is able to feed negative emotions to Data. And he basically gets him hooked on like cocaine sort of. He feeds Data all this wrath and rage and anger and blah, oh bad girl, and makes him torture his friends and then Law sometimes is like, bro, you're not listening to me? Just fucking turn it off. And Data turns into a shambling wreck. The only way that he's able to be stopped is when Geordie LaForge actually does a bit of visor tinkering to interrupt the stream of emotions coming from Law and tell Data, hey, you're being manipulated. Data didn't make the conscious decision to betray them. He was manipulated by the Borg on board the brig to, be shit. SCREENRANT. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you think I did a good job, leave a thumbs up and tell me in the comments, yeah man, this video was so sick, dude. I really liked it. If you think I did a shit job, tell me. This is my first video that I've ever done, like a talking and stuff, and if you think I made nowhere points and I didn't really contradict the article and I just did terribly, tell me so. The rest of the video right from here is going to be a channel update. So, leave a comment, say, shit job, good job, I don't care, and see you next time. Channel update. Okay, so the Dead Rising videos are going to continue. I know I've been putting out a lot of them, but they will continue. I've actually completed the game and I've got a bunch of videos just waiting to upload. But I have to pay like $60 for data, because as I've said before, I don't live in an internet zone, so I use data to upload my videos, and it costs money. The Yakuza videos are going to keep coming. I haven't played much because I've got all the Dead Rising videos to put out, and actually, hang on. My remastered collection arrived in the mail the other day. So I got the cool case, and then Yakuza 3, 4, and 5. So that will be coming. I've got the entire series now. I'm just missing Yakuza 6. But since that's still pretty new, it's like $100, and I've got 5 games that I haven't played. They will keep coming, and I'm ready to just do, but it's difficult finding the motivation to just sit down and film Yakuza games for the next, month or two? I do like doing this sort of video though. This is my first, so if it's bad, like I said, let me know. But I do want to do more stuff like this. I read that data article a while ago, and I thought, like, what a shit article. It honestly felt like the SCREENRANT people didn't even watch the episodes and didn't even understand the motivations behind them. There are a couple of points there that I wasn't able to comment on. Like, there were some points in there that, you know, I was reading right now. You probably saw me stop for a bit, but I realized that I actually agreed with what they were saying over just a few of the little things, not like the actual big things, but just like a little offhand thing where they're like, oh, I needed this and that was bad. You know, it actually was sometimes. No hate to SCREENRANT. They push out good articles, you know. They're all really clickbaity. I clicked on one the other day and was like, oh, this is gonna be fucking such clickbait dog shit. But it was actually good, and it was an enjoyable article to read, and their writers are obviously talented. If they don't have all the grammatical errors. But yeah, no hate to you, SCREENRANT. So if you see this, it's a well written article. I'll point that out. It's well written. Like, it's not well written. It's actually very badly written. Lots of spelling errors and grammatical errors and stuff, but the writing is on point. Like, their stuff that they wrote is good, and you obviously put a lot of thought. Trying to be serious, you obviously put a lot of thought and time into it. So, good job. I don't agree with what you wrote, but I agree that you wrote it. Yeah, like I said, tell me your thoughts on how I did this video. I'm going to be editing it using Vegas, so if it's real shittily edited, give me a break, because it's my first. Just tell me how bad it is. Like, don't be like, oh, this is the shittiest video I've ever watched, and I hate how this is edited. Just tell me, like, be constructive with your criticism. As I've said in other videos, in the comments, attack me, don't attack each other. Don't attack anybody, that's a crime. But yeah, I realize I'm rambling now, so I'm gonna cut it off. Thanks for watching, guys.